dinosaurs. Hey, before the answer comes, let's try our last resort. Hey, before the answer comes, let's make some dinosaurs. Waiting on the news, an asteroid's gonna destroy everything that once brought you joy.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton to go over in a short amount of time. We're going to go over all of the current events, including a ton of stuff going over in the Middle East. Of course, some things that I think every single person on the planet should be aware of. So we'll go over all of that and plus much more when we get back. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. Nordvpn is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
Hey, before the answer comes, let's try our last resort. Hey, before the answer comes, let's make some dinosaurs. Waiting on the news, an asteroid's gonna destroy everything that once brought you joy. Waiting on the news,
All right.
our last resort. Hey, before the answer comes.
What is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton to go over in a short amount of time, so if you're new here, remember to go over to our website. You can find a full bibliography of all of our articles, tweets, videos, pictures, documents. Pretty much anything that we show you here is going to be over on the website, marfooglenews.com. Now, when you click on Last Resort, today's thumbnail, you will see that it brings you to a complete bibliography that has every single article and the sources they came from. That way you know exactly where it came from yourself. You can go back retrospectively. You can, tonight, later on in bed, read the news if you want to go back through the entire list. Now, there's a ton of extra stuff here. The overflow content is the stuff that is essentially the stuff we could not fit into the show or could not put into the show. So make sure to go down there and check it out. There's a ton of great stuff, and it takes a lot of time to put it together, so please utilize it. On the right side, there are boxes. Those are all affiliate links. Those are the products that are mentioned during the show, and when you go and purchase those, it helps support the show with a commission, and we appreciate it greatly. All of those items are picked to either save your life, make your life better, or of course, make your life easier. So again, great stuff. Let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, Dex, first of all, we talked about the first pictures coming out of James Webb yesterday. Today, there are actually more images coming out of it. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, these are pretty stunning. When you look at what these full color images, last time we just saw a bunch of stuff out in space, like little dots and stars, but now we're seeing what, I don't even know how to describe this. I guess it's some, you could consider it some form of, matter or color in the vast distance that creates that, but it almost looks like clouds or something else. It's pretty wild that's what we're seeing coming from these pictures. And then they've got a few others they released that dove into some of the more details around some of these smaller nebulas that they took pictures of. So kind of crazy.
One of the images here, one of the main ones that a lot of people are looking at, I mean, this straight up looks like what they put in children's Bible books as far as, what it looked like in the beginning, right? What's really crazy to me, it almost looks like there is a woman with a head cover and like a sheath or like a robe standing and kind of popping out of this. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but there's really clear definition right around here if you see my mouse. And then it almost looks like there's a person walking here. It's just weird. Obviously, if you just look at normal clouds, then you will see stuff. Everybody sees something different. When you're looking at these kind of nebulous clouds thing, if this is correct and if this is real, and again, I know that people debate over all sorts of stuff here. This is just nuts. Over here, there's like a wrapping. You can see like it comes together, and it's like a knot that's writhing together. It's just absolutely crazy. Plus, it almost looks like there's a hand in it. This black line right here looks like a hand reaching up, with the woman being like the finger or something. What was that, Dex?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they may refer to some of this stuff as dust or space dust that comes from a dying star. But I mean, it almost looks like clouds to me. It's not clouds in the traditional sense that we think of clouds in our atmosphere, obviously. But yeah, it's kind of crazy what these images are showing. And then I saw this meme, and I got to find it again. It went by on my phone, but it was like 4.6 billion light years away, and they're showing like one of these pictures from the Webb telescope, really crystal clear, and then they're showing 10 feet away security cam of a bad guy, and it's all blurry and you can't make out his face. So it's kind of funny that the contrast of that, right?
The Pentagon camera that couldn't clearly define a plane, just things like that, just saying. That got weird fast. John Bolton makes startling on-air admission as somebody who helped plan coups. So that's kind of clickbaity title there, because basically he has, and that's what some of these people do. And this is kind of more like, Dex, when I think about this, it says that former T-Man National Security Advisor John Bolton said rather nonchalantly on CNN that he has, quote, helped plan coups d'etat in the past during a conversation with Jake Tapper about the event on the 6th at the cap, right? So, yeah. But it's like, this is what I tell people too. They don't realize, like, these spy movies, yes, those are exaggerated and they've got gadgets and all this, but part of that is real, and they do these things. They've taken over countries. They've helped, forcefully and, guide somebody to the 6 feet under place, and taken over countries and done all sorts of things. The U.S. especially. What do you think about this? Like, people are trying to make it like, oh, he knows what it looks like to plan one.
Well, yeah, I mean, you step aside from the whole politics side of this article, and actually that's probably most of what's in here was just conversation around that event, right? But what really is interesting is that this person who used to be a national advisor, and it's not just for the past president, this guy has done this job numerous times before for other presidents. So for him to come out and make a statement and do it so nonchalantly like that is kind of eye-opening, but at the same time, we know it. Like, we didn't believe that they don't do this, but they've never really said that they do this. So for him to come out and sort of say that is kind of a big deal. And I think it's more of that statement than anything else. Like, the rest of this article is just like, it's the whole politics stuff. So, whatever side you're on, take it for what you want. Right. But, just thinking about a national security advisor and the roles that he has played with the past president and with other presidents before him, admitting that they do this publicly, that's kind of a big step.
Well, it's something that everyone knows happens, and you see in the movies, you just don't ever see somebody actually admit to it. That's not something when they go to apply for the next job, they're not going to put on their resume like, I helped replace Africa's leader. That it's not the kind of stuff you can really talk about. So it is quite surprising. And then we have U.S. successfully tested Lockheed hypersonic missile this week. Again, we have covered many failures, or at least public failures. My personal opinion on this is that we most definitely have gear covering kind of what happened as we covered that Vlad and others said that they had hypersonics first. I remember back then covering a lot of the things like just the out of nowhere creating Space Force, and everybody made fun of Space Force back then. Now we have had several officials come forward and say that there is a conflict going on above our heads, that they've weaponized space, even to the point where they've done, CBC kind of 60-minute type shows on what is actually happening. And in fact, those shows, it's almost like they ripped part of, 30 minutes of our show from 2.5, 3 years ago, and they're coming out now talking about all of the satellites with the arms. Like Xi has a satellite that can grab a satellite and take it down. Vlad had a missile, and he directly took out his own satellite to test this, and that actually broke up into pieces and supposedly put everybody else in danger. The ISS had to move because of it. But now what we're going to be covering later on, you'll see that they have actually also put in some sort of satellite with a laser that can take out satellites. They've been targeting our satellites for a long time. So I believe the U.S. most definitely has a ton of stuff up there that's classified. And I do believe we have one of the most advanced military in the world, if not the most. But again, you never underestimate your enemy, and know that there have been sabotage. That's what I worry about. If our country has been sabotaged over the last 4, 8, 16 years by different people holding back specific things so somebody else could kind of cut in line. Just wondering. That's just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments down below. So for them to successfully test this thing, a Lockheed Martin core hypersonic missile this week, sources familiar with the efforts set on Wednesday, amid growing concerns that Vlad and Xi have had more success developing their own hypersonic weapons. It says the U.S. Air Force successfully tested its air-launched rapid response weapon, or ARROW, boosted off of Tuesday's off of the California coast. According to the sources, the ARROW is carried aloft under the wing of a plane before it is launched toward its target. In previous tests, the weapon did not detach from the plane. Oh, okay. So, by the way that they wrote that, can you see the guy that's piloting the plane, like pushing the button and it doesn't detach and then it just starts, rocketing? I wonder if that guy survived. It's kind of like a Back to the Future thing where you push the button 88 miles and then you're dead. So this is Dex. This isn't the first success, is it? Or is this the second? Or we had
this may be like the third success. We've had numerous. I almost thought that they came out with this just to say something to counter the fact that they had the news the other day of a failure. So, they probably like, quick, get up there and do something that we can call a success. At least from a PR point of view, that's what I felt when I read this. But yeah, we've seen numerous phases of these different tests and with different companies. So some of them have had their own failures, some of them have not. Lockheed has had a failure, but also had numerous successes. So we continue to track this, but nonetheless, according to the public information that they want out there, we're behind and we don't have it, and we're still not there yet.
And again, I think they have a lot of secrets up their sleeves. But another thing. One way that someone put the conflict in UKR is a testing ground for new advanced weapons. Obviously, many people know UKR is directly using the U.S. satellites, the U.S. satellite system, the Space Force system. They are using Starlink, but they are also using our GPS for everything. And that is why we've covered this whole story with Roscosmos, essentially saying that we aren't going to get out scot-free, that the enemy, that you're letting our enemy use your gear to take our soldiers. If you think about it just from the straight-up point of it, UKR is using our satellite systems and our GPS to actually take the lives of their people. This is as direct as it's gotten in a long time. It is, of course, kind of a proxy because we are sending in gear, and I think people don't. A lot of people don't see it as a proxy. They see it as UKR versus this and the NATO. But this is really, this is a testing grounds. This is where they're going to be able to use all of these advanced weapons. We've seen at least 15 different weapons we've never even seen or heard about before ever being used on the battlefield. As I said before, the next conflict would be absolutely bonkers, and that's what we're seeing in UKR as far as them using these all sorts of new type weapons, shoulder-mounted weapons that can do what you used to have a jet do. as far as a rocket taking off and then being able to guide itself to its target, all this kind of stuff. Lasers, they've been using lasers. There's at least 4 different stories of different lasers being used. And then, of course, on Vlad's side as well. So they're testing some pretty advanced stuff. And then computer chips face toilet paper hoarding moment as shortage turns to glut. So people are grabbing them up. It says the supply chain crisis triggered by the global pandemic deprived makers of PCs and smartphones. And let me just make sure this is on here. 2 cars of computer chips needed to make their products. All that suddenly changed over 3 weeks from late May to June as high inflation, Xi's latest CV lockdown, and the conflict in UKR dampened consumer spending, especially on PC and smartphones. It says chip shortages turned into a glut in some sectors, taking Wall Street by surprise. It says by late June, memory chip firm Micron Technology said it would reduce production. The market reversal caught Micron off guard, admitted Chief Business Officer Sumit Sadana. And it says that as U.S. chip earnings reported season kickoffs later this month, Tech Insights chip economist Dan Hutchinson warned of more bad news following Micron's grim forecast. It says Micron kind of plowed the ground with their honesty, he said. Worries that an industry downturn have slammed chip stocks, with the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, or the SOX, tumbling 35% so far in 2022, far more than the S&P 500's SPX 19% lost. Hoarding is making it worse. Like nervous shoppers raiding supermarket aisles for toilet paper ahead of CV, manufacturers stockpiled computer chips during the demic. Before that, just-in-time manufacturing was the norm for fiscally conservative companies, which ordered parts as close to production time as possible to avoid excess inventory, reduce warehouse capacity, and cut upfront spending. But during the CV, that shifted to what some jokingly call a just-in-case practice of stockpiling chips. Hoarding is a sign that they essentially they think it's essential until one day they look at it and they say, why do I have all of this inventory? So, by the way, and they're comparing it to toilet paper. All these companies grabbed them up. They didn't think they would be able to get them, and then they thought that it would screw them. And now we're sitting here. There's no chips. All these companies have an excess of them, but nobody can actually access them. Is that how I'm reading this, Dex?
Yeah, exactly. You know, everybody scrambled and just overbought and did something they don't normally do, which is store them. And now because of that, you know, they either have them and they're not ordering them. If they're not ordering them, they're not making them, but they also have them. And it's all that also took it away from the market. So there's plenty of people out there that never got them. I mean, you know, we reported on, what was it, car audio equipment and stuff like that. Those people never made, you know, Sony, JVC, all those companies never made their orders for chips, and they got behind, right? And then other companies, certain car manufacturers ordered tons of them and had them, you know, and were able to do it. And then some companies like Apple had better planning, and they've been able to stay close to on top of it. They're still delayed with a lot of their products, just like everyone else. But yeah, this problem, it's just interesting because the problem goes from not enough output from manufacturing to not enough product because too many people are holding on to them and not giving them up or not using them because they bought more than they need, which then still creates the same vacuum there that's causing a shortage and causing these, you know, additional things to inflation, to increasing prices, and additional shortages to equipment. I mean, look, even energy, who we talk about all the time, has shortages to get, you know, electronic components they need, whether it's battery technology or chip technology that go into the products that are only made overseas. You can't even get them in America.
And that's why certain products, they're having huge problems actually even producing them. They'll have 99% of the product to put together, but they'll be missing something like these chips. And these chips are incredibly important. They're in almost everything you can think of. Especially cars have over 160 of these chips alone. Pretty much everything in your car, from the power windows to the power seats, everything has these chips. I was about to say VCRs. Dex, VCRs have these chips in them.
They got some old chips in them.
Yeah, they got some old chips. VCR, what am I thinking? But Note even has a DVD player anymore. It's all streamed. But you guys get the point. There's a ton of them out there. Jim, I want to say very much thank you to you. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for supporting independent channels like ourselves. Thank you. Again, Foogle fam, make sure to thank Jim. And then main watcher, thanks Marf and Dex, and hi, Mom. Main watchers, Mom, hello, and I hope you are doing well as well. By the way, I do want to say I missed Veronica Powers Mom of 9. Says, thanks for all you do, Marf and Dex. I hit the Marf store, got my water purifier, iodine pills, and saved $150 on my energy solar package. Hey, thank you, Veronica. I appreciate that. And you're going to love that thing. It's absolutely amazing. Be Real Beast, the homeless ones in the Matrix use the markings. That's what I wanted to say. And then Survival Living, as a former freight train riders for 1.5 years, we use these rider tags, hence my personal tag. Now, that I believe I did get, but I did want to make sure that I got everybody from last show. Thank you, guys. I do appreciate it. It helps us grow. All right, so as far as this goes, and then there was a small part, you guys want to go over there and read the rest of the article. It has stuff about NVIDIA and other things if you are a gamer, and there's other things that will matter to you in that article. Now, before we hit the G courts allow AI to make rulings, charge people, and carry out punishments. This is just the title alone is absolutely terrifying. It's a good time to bring up. Thank you again, Veronica Powers of 9. If you guys have not checked out Energy, this is a solar generator that's actually powering my whole setup. I have 4 panels and a Flex 1500. I now have 2 batteries, but for months I went with just one and never had an issue. Again, a Flex 1500 with 1 battery is a great solution because it is portable. You can take it with you camping. You can take it tailgating. You can go and use it on a construction site. But again, the coolest part about it is expandable. This solar generator can actually be expanded up to 96 batteries. That means that you can actually have as much power as you want as far as the time that you need. You can really decide. You can look at how many hours each battery provides, and you can do the math and figure it out. Not only that, what is really great is if the head unit ends up going extinct in 10 or 11 years and they have the better new one, you'll be able to just replace the head unit. Way down the road, if the battery ever has any kind of degradation, all lithium batteries do eventually, you can just replace the battery, or you can add on to it. That is what's so great about this. It is also silent, meaning it does not make any sound. No desperate people from 3 blocks away will hear that you have a generator going because they won't hear it whatsoever. In fact, this can be actually put inside your home. There's no noxious gases. It doesn't get crazy hot or anything. This thing is absolutely perfect. It is an amazing product. Not only that, the actual build quality of this thing is like a tank. The one problem, though, is the chips and everything else are making these hard to get. This has a short wait list. The wait list was upwards of like 5 or 6 months. Now it is down to weeks. So make sure to get over there. Today, the ship date will be in August, so make sure to get in there soon. What is also great is this does not take gas, which is $11 billion per gallon. This is just solar powered or charged by your car or charged by your wall. So if you want to use it as a battery bank, basically the most giant battery bank you can think of, you can plug it into your wall, have a charged power until you get your panels. Again, the other cool thing, they have foldable panels, but you can actually get any panels. You know, you can get some from Amazon. If you want to go with something else, you can. The main unit, though, is one of the most important parts. Highly recommend their foldable energy solar panels. That's what I use, and that's what I know. I know those are good because I've used them. All right, and that's marfooglenews.com/energy. They have a code right now for the Foogle family only that gets you upwards of $170 off on certain packages. Like Veronica said, on her package, she got $150 off. Make sure to use that. That is going away. Again, these are in incredibly high demand and in short supply. So it is definitely a good thing to have before a disaster. It doesn't have to be the end of the world. It can be a power outage or a rolling blackout. All right, and then Dex. Let's see here. Let's go over the AI court to make rulings and charge people. This is absolutely insane, and this is what we covered this before when it was just an idea in Xi's country there.
Yeah, this is crazy. So they're using AI to correct perceived human errors in a verdict, as the quote that they have there. But specifically, like, you know, if a judge doesn't think something's correct, then they have to write a letter to the AI system and tell the AI system what they think. They have to consult the AI system on every case. So this AI system is taking a very critical role in their court system. That's a super crazy, scary thought.
This is a science fiction movie in real life. If people aren't terrified by this, then wake up. This is absolutely scary. We're talking about those movies where they go into a dark room and there's an ominous voice, that's like, you are deemed guilty by the system. This is what's happening there. They're using AI to judge what is going to happen with people's lives. And people still aren't afraid of AI. By the way, lots of great videos that I want to share with you guys. Some of them as old as 8 years old. I have actually been watching some great, I guess some are theologians, some are physicists talking about AI and getting really deep into the subject, because I want to be able to be more knowledgeable so I can actually teach everybody what I found. As far as AI goes, there's very little oversight, and people need to start researching it now. That is not like you should. It's more of like this should be mandatory in the next couple of years. Human beings need to understand what this is and how it's going to affect them and their children and their children's children, if children exist at that point, if the computers let us. So very scary. Go over there and read the rest of that article. I highly recommend it. And then U.S. destroyer sails near disputed South China Sea islands. Xi says it drove a ship away. It says that a U.S. destroyer sailed near the disputed Paracel Islands in the South China Sea on Wednesday, drawing an angry reaction from Beijing, which said its military had driven away the ship after it illegally entered the territorial waters. The United States regularly carries out what it calls freedom of navigation operations in the South Sea, challenging what it says are restrictions on innocent passage imposed by Xi and his country and other claimants. It says that the U.S. Navy said that the USS Benfield asserted navigational rights and freedoms in the South Sea near the Paracel Islands consistent with international law. It says that unlawful and sweeping maritime claims in the South China Sea pose a serious threat to freedom of the seas, including the freedoms of navigation and overflight, free trade and unimpeded commerce, the freedom of economic opportunity for that sea, littoral nations. It says that Xi says it does not impede freedom of navigation or overflight, accusing the United States of deliberately provoking tensions, which it could have been both. Dex, to be honest, it was probably both that they were there, that we've done this in the past. In fact, last time they were really trying to punk Taiwan. I want to say, was it during Bill Clinton's term? Or was it, it was a long time ago that they threatened Taiwan, and they ended up bringing a whole armada out over there, and actually Xi backed off at that point. Now we have done that same thing. We've done drills, exercises, but they're not actually really scared by it anymore. They're not backing off like they did before.
Well, I sort of wonder if this term driven away just really means we got behind them and followed them, and eventually they got out of the space so we could say we drove them away. Because I don't know that they really used any specific tactic to cause our ship to change direction. I'm assuming that our ship probably set a course and decided to sail through that course, and it might have gone through an area that is contested, and at some point they're going to come out of that area. So I sort of laugh and think that they probably just got behind them and followed them, and then they said they drove them away. Well, they were going that way anyway, so.
By the way, Vic says, love the channel and the energy y'all put out. Told my fiance Ragda to call your show about her uncle in I want to say Palestine, in the country. And it says, thank you so much for giving her time. Much love from Tampa, Florida. And I believe Ragda was the woman who her uncle was being held prisoner, was a prisoner of war, I guess, or a prisoner, like a political prisoner. And we put out the information for the website and the Instagram that they put together for that person apparently being held. And again, we don't know the exact reason why it's happening, but it seems like it's being done for those reasons. So we're glad to help in any way we can. Again, just always the disclaimer that we don't personally know the man, but I don't think anybody would like to be imprisoned for their views. And who knows, soon that might be what AI decides is right. And then Vic, thank you. And thank you for recommending us to other people. I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate each and every person that watches right now. And then Greg Davis, AI decides if nukes should be launched or not. Greg, I hope that's not the case. And again, people need to research what is going on with that space. People think that it's some future thing and that it's not here. It's here. It's already embedded in almost all the social medias. It is only going to get more advanced. We're talking about chatbots getting sentient, for God's sakes. So please do some research. Biden says that U.S. would use force as a last resort to prevent Iranian nuclear weapons. Now, this is a big deal because obviously we've been following it, the Middle East, and a lot of things have been going down in the last 4 or 5 months. There have been some really bad back and forth, some tit for tats. But again, most people are looking at Vlad and UKR. They're looking elsewhere. Meanwhile, India and Pakistan are in all sorts of, duels and troubles, and their nuclear powers as well. We have NK and SK. We, of course, have Iran. And these guys are close to a nuclear state. I mean, they're basically either there secretly or close to it. It says the United States would use force to prevent Iran from acquiring or developing nuclear weapons if all other options fail. Now, I also want to remind you, about 3 weeks ago, a lot of stuff went public about Vlad and Xi trying to bring in this country and to bring in others into the fold, into this group. It's basically like, NATO is getting its countries, and then these guys are teaming up with pretty much every enemy of the U.S. So we have something really bad brewing, and people are kind of just covering their ears and going la la la. Meanwhile, you can't sugarcoat this stuff. The point of this, and just have to remind people that maybe new, they're like, oh, this is fear, fear, fear. Almost, everybody that watches the show on a regular is not afraid. The only way that you are afraid by this is if you just heard it and you're used to watching Netflix and you come over here and you're afraid by it. You should be desensitized to the fear, and you should not be afraid. You should be thinking about solutions. What I don't get is the people that say fear-mongering, they're basically saying don't talk about these subjects. Don't talk about scary stuff. What fear-mongering is making people afraid to make them go do something to control people, right? And I do understand that happens. But at the same time, we are going to be the victim of something horrible in the future. And that's almost a statistical guarantee as far as when things fall apart. And especially, it's many different ways, but even just our currency. The current currency that the world runs on is based on debt. It will collapse. It will fall apart. And every financial expert knows that. It's a matter of time. It's a matter of when, not if, things fall apart. And when those things fall apart, there will be physical war as well. Right now, I believe we are in an economic conflict with Xi already. There's all sorts of things going on that are very strange that are covered up by the fact that we had this whole thing going on since 2019. We still don't have things shipping out. I've got some other things I'll probably talk about on another video, but there's companies going out of business that actually that bring stuff from Xi's country. I do not have a good feeling about it, and I'm not going to tell people I do just to make them feel better. To be honest, it's getting quite scary. Next, what is your opinion on as far as the whole wording and the rhetoric used for the I country here?
Well, we got to take into account that he is visiting, or was in the middle of visiting, the is country. They're an ally. We know that there's been a lot of consternation between them and the I country, specifically around nuclear weapon development. So this kind of statement is one you would, on one hand, you sort of have to say, well, he didn't make this last week. He didn't make it last month. He's making it right now as he's, being interviewed by the media in that country based on his visit there. So, is this more of us aligning with their initiative? Because we know that they have an absolute zero tolerance for allowing they being the is country, has zero tolerance allowing the I country to create this type of technology. So, and they've said that they will go in and use force to stop it if nothing else prevails. So it sounds like he's getting on board with what they've been saying. And I guess that sort of adds credence to the fact that what we have said all along is watch the ME, right? Because there is this tension that keeps building between these two countries. And there are these really strong lines in the sand, if you want to call them that we know, at least on one side they're not willing to back down on it. So, and it sounds like he's getting in line with them.
Well, he said some things that they've had to back out of numerous times. In fact, what was it? A month ago, we covered that he said he would get involved with Taiwan, I believe, and the reporter kind of pushed him on it, and he said, yes, we will, essentially, get militarily involved if something happens to Taiwan. But who knows? Then looking into all the stuff that is coming out about the sun, and the ties and the connections and the things that are coming out, again, people make it a complete, that's just an attack from this side or that side. There are real facts coming out about that. And if people are ignoring that, then they are really just kind of shutting their ears. There were ties to the Prez and, of course, the son, having people meet him when he was VP. So there's some pretty crazy stuff going on in that realm. And if you're not following that stuff, again, there's a ton coming out. So that's why I say I just wonder if for some reason we got held back in certain areas on purpose. Just a thought. Exclusive U.S. government warns the I country may try to take the lives of American officials in revenge for taking out their top general. Of course, which we covered. And Soleimani was taken out by a drone strike, I believe it was, and they actually missed his second-hand man. So T-Man at that point, I just want to remind anyone new, when this happened, when we took out this military leader, General Qasem Soleimani, T-Man said publicly that he had a plan that made September of 2001 look like chicken feed. Like they had a plan towards the U.S. directly. They had absolute information. This is at least what they're saying, right? That there was going to be an event from this country to ours that was so large and so big that it made that event look like nothing. So they took him out. They did 2 strikes in the same day, and they missed the second one. So his right-hand man did not get taken out. So do you think that it just ended with him, this major general? Don't think so. I think that he probably had a boss, and the boss was telling him, what to do. So they have now been threatening, and now they're saying things on back channels, and now our officials are actually saying that they may take out people. This may also be an excuse for somebody to disappear, though, too. Dex, have you thought about that? If somebody that may be causing trouble just disappears all of a sudden, they can blame it on somebody?
Right. Absolutely.
So it's pretty big for this to happen. And then, of course, their actual state media, though, and it's easy to blame them for something like that, or it's easy to say this because they have actually put out on their official lines, which, again, they have blocked people on Twitter for posting some things, but then let, say, what was it, the main, one of the official Twitters put out a video essentially showing a simulation of taking T-Man out while he was golfing with the drone. So, that kind of stuff is allowed, but other stuff is not. So it makes me have the feeling that somebody is about to have something happen. We, of course, had Japan's former prime minister, Shinzo Abe. He passed forcefully by hands of somebody, an assassin. So we'll be following this, but I would say keep your head on a swivel. Be aware of your surroundings. Doesn't matter where you are, whether it be in a grocery store or whether it be at a concert. Doesn't matter. Keep your head on your shoulders and understand what is going on around you. Dex, do you have anything else on this?
Well, yeah, just the fact that we have a lot of people now. Obviously, there's an entourage. There's others that are going with our administration, our president over there. And it's not just to the IS country. He's working his way, and his final stop is in Saudi. So, that's why this is sort of a hot topic at the moment is, they got to be careful not just with him, but with anybody, given the fact that there is such a push to retaliate for that loss that the iCountry felt.
What if JB was taken out? I mean, with all the stuff coming out, everything that's going on, that would just be absolutely insane. It would also be something, but if JB obviously wouldn't be in on that unless they, if somebody was in on them disappearing or something, and then he'd live the rest of his life out in like witness protection or something and say that he perished, and then somebody else takes over for that position. That was a rumor going on for the last 2.5 years. As far as something mysteriously happens and then somebody else takes over, who would be the real president or the first female president. Who knows though? Again, thank you everybody over on DLive. Thank you for your support. I appreciate you guys. It looks like Chewy Weather, Wolfkill, I Love G's Forever, our Tate, and Jem. Thank you for your support over there. It looks like a lot of folks are probably going to be watching the replay today because we did go on early. Over the next couple days, the shows are going to be possibly moved around to accommodate some other stuff going on and family things. So I appreciate your guys' patience. And thank you, Greg, Davis, Vic, and Jim. Before we move on, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/prep. If you have been waiting for a while to actually get long-term survival food or freeze-dried foods, then I would highly recommend doing it now rather than later. One, we told you guys to do this before a lot of this. In fact, we did it before we even had marfooglenews.com/prep set up. And when we told you before, the price of all of these foods have now tripled since I started the show. So this is something that, you can get 25-year shelf life foods, and in 3 years from now, they're not going to be the same price. In fact, in 1 year from now, they most likely will not be the same price. As far as this goes, and you'll still have 24 years left on your shelf. So if you do want to put yourself together and actually have an insurance policy for food, then I'd highly recommend going over here. They have 3-day kits, 72-hour kits, 1-month kits. They have 3-month kits, and that will have in it everything you need to survive for one person for 3 months. Or, again, if you have 2 people, that's a month and a half. So you can do the math on it yourself. It's great because they're sealed. They're in buckets. Most of it is just add water or cook in water or cook in liquid. And then, boom, it is a really yummy meal. The food is really good. That's why I picked this one. It's actually really, really good. So make sure to go check it out. They also have iodine tablets. They also have water purification systems. This is something you will need once the water shuts off, or, again, if SHTF happens, or even if you just lose power regionally, if you have an earthquake, a hurricane, a tornado, it doesn't have to be the end of the world. All of these things help during normal disasters, and odds are you're probably going to live through one once in your life. That's marfooglenews.com/prep. When you go over there, you're helping our channel grow. You're helping us expand. Again, one of the main goals to this is to make it bigger, to have more people working at marfooglenews.com. So thank you, everybody, and I appreciate you. All right. And Dax, let's get into it. Is to laser in on Iranian drone threat as President B visits. What about the timing on this one?
Yeah, so and we're about to talk a lot about lasers, which is really interesting because they're all over the place right now in the news. So, this is specifically one, I guess, that's being shown being released and talked about literally right after our administration landed in Tel Aviv. So they're talking about using this specifically to go against drones and other aerial devices, whether it be missiles or other things like that. But I think specifically they were talking about drones when they were showing this off. So kind of another use case for these lasers, and we're going to talk in depth over the next few articles about lasers for sure.
And this is called the Iron Beam system. It is more directed towards anti-drone, but I do want to point out U.S. Special Operations Command is working on a new weapon for its Ghost Rider gunship lasers. So this would be, again, it says, while Vlad's conflict in UKR drags on, the U.S. military is continuing to prepare for a conflict with Xi in the Indo-Pacific region. By the way, when Pearl Harbor happened, everyone expected it. They talked about the same kind of conflict before it happened. Everybody knew that there was problems with Japan. I mean, at that point, we were in peace talks with them. In fact, the peace talks ended just, a day before the actual attack of it. May have been 2 days before. But again, everybody thought, oh, we'll just do peace talks and it will just keep coming down. The same kind of thing is happening. And there's a lot of similarities. I've talked about it in previous episodes, like Japan in their embassies burning all their documents, Xi and his embassies burning all their documents, things like this. Usually, again, you burn your documents so they stay confidential, but also to hide plans of something or, something that may be in the works. It says to deal with the Xi military increasing capabilities, U.S. Special Operations Command is rebuilding partnerships in the region and experimenting with futuristic weapon systems. One concept being tested is a high-energy laser weapon, and SOCOM intends to put it on one of the deadliest platforms, the AC-130 gunship. So this thing is a massive. This takes lives. This thing is a insanely beefed up plane here. And it says, first introduced 6 decades ago, the AC-130 gunship is essentially an aerial artillery platform. It uses pylon turn technique to fly in a wide circle above the target area and dish out a steady stream of fire without having to adjust its angle of attack. The aircraft is a favorite among special operations and conventional troops because of the amount of firepower it can bring down to the enemy and extended time it can stay on target and support troops on the ground. It says U.S. Special Force Command, which is a component of SOCOM, is now looking to outfit the latest version of the gunship, the AC-130 Ghost Rider, with a high-energy laser weapon. Lockheed Martin said in October that it had finished factory acceptance testing of the weapon and turned it over to the military for further tests. At a Special Operations Industry conference in May, officials from SOCOM said that the experiments with the laser weapon were moving forward. It says, quote, we're actually doing some integration at the subsystem level. We're still doing ground testing and haven't put it on a platform yet, but it says basically it is coming. So we're talking about Star Wars here. We're having lasers put on these things that can actually take things out. Now, I wonder if the lasers, by the way, the new lasers can actually take things out on the ground, not just take out drones or take out other flying objects or heat something up. We're talking about lasers that can cut things in half, cut people in half. This is now moving forward at breakneck speeds. I talked about this 3-4 years ago. Of course, at the time, I was lucky to have kind of an insight to it. My sister was dating somebody who was working for a very big company and then ended up getting recruited. He was active military, got recruited. One of the people that got recruited into Space Force from Air Force. And he was working on these lasers and said that they're bigger than cars. Some of them are just absolute monsters, and that these things are the most dangerous weapons in the world as far as, non-nuclear weapons. The things he says that are coming are just absolutely mind-blowing. And then satellites spot construction of a Vladian anti-satellite laser. It says recent Google Earth images reveal construction at what appears to be a sophisticated laser system at a Vladian space facility designed to blind adversary satellites. The construction is taking place at the Vladian Ministry of Defense Krona space facility near Zelenchskaya in Vlad's southwest. Home of the massive Raton 600 radio telescope. The existence of his new complex is brought to light in an in-depth open-source investigation published by the Space Review that analyzed public satellite imagery, solicitation documents from the Vladian industrial contractors, and Vladian financial documents. All of the sources basically lay out the construction of a project named Kalina. Sorry about this, guys. I got to fix the lineup of all this stuff. Kalina, described in the financial documentation obtained by Space Review as a laser system designed for electro-optical warfare. So it would be blinding cameras or blinding satellites that can permanently blind adversarial satellites by shining laser pulses so bright they can damage optical sensors. This is distinctly different from other lasers known as dazzlers, which are aimed at only temporarily blinding optic system. So once this hits one of our satellites, it's done. It's down. And I want to say, Dex, I don't know if it was accurate. Dex, can we look up how many satellites the military actually has? I heard a number like they had 30 that were straight up military Air Force satellites. And I was thinking, man, that's much lower than I thought. So maybe if we could get the correct number.
As of December 2018, there are 320 known military or dual-use satellites in the sky, half of which are owned by the U.S., so approximately 160 are U.S. military.
Yeah, so if this thing if there's multiple of these, or if they go pap, 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 knock out a bunch, how fast it can be done, it could blind satellites in important areas, especially if we are attacking something and it's above the area we're attacking. That's a scary thought. So we've talked about this years ago. We talked about the idea of this, and now it is essentially here, or at least that's what they're telling us. We always take everything with a grain of salt, but at the same time, this is what we warned you guys about. We even warned you about the blinding of the satellites way before mainstream had it. And then Vladian claims massive strike by UKR armed forces on air defense system near Luhansk. Dex, do you want to talk about this one?
Well, yeah. So this is actually coming from the other side, and they're making a claim that that the strike by UKR was significant. So that's kind of odd. We don't normally hear that. Usually we hear the opposite. They don't usually talk this way. So, but what we're seeing here, and maybe the reason why is we've talked a lot about over the recent weeks all this Western gear that's going in, like HIMARS and other stuff like that. So maybe the reason why we're going to hear more of this type of messaging, even coming from Vlad's side of the line, so to speak, is because of the fact that that equipment is there, or because of the fact that they have constantly said if that equipment is being used, and if the West's equipment, or more specifically NATO's equipment, is who we're going up against, then we're going to go after NATO. So maybe that's partially why we're hearing this update coming from them, but specifically, this is just yet another of the many updates that come out of the conflict that's going on over there. There's always something happening, but what struck me on this is the fact that it was coming from Vlad's side and saying a significant strike by the UKR forces. So rather interesting. So,
and this is something that we've been paying attention to as far as how they, I guess, address different things that are going on. A lot of the times they'll minimize stuff that's being done to them. The U.S. will go back and forth if they are about to fund something, like send, $400 million package. It's like the 3 days before you'll see, Vlad is moving in and he's taking stuff, and it shows they're horribly losing, and then they send it in, and then they, do a week straight of they're winning because we sent them HIMARS and all of this good stuff. Every time that they are about to donate, it seems like they say that something negative is happening. I just wonder if this is to rally the people in Vlad's country to say, like, hey, they're attacking us and they're using this gear to go against us. Again, this and what if, just crazy talk, what if all of a sudden, NATO tried to go take Vlad out or something? They invaded on them. That would be a complete 180 from what everybody thinks, right? UK's armed forces have launched a massive strike on the air defense military unit that ensures protection of the city of Luhansk. So they're doing some big things. All right, let's see here.
And Adam, real quick, I want to address something that was being mentioned in chat quite a bit. There is an update out there on YouTube from a couple of creators about the FAA webcams that are eastward facing being down. And some people said West Coast too. I double checked West Coast and don't see it, but on the East Coast, there's a few. There's not really a lot. There's a handful up in the northeastern corner. And yes, there are some eastern facing cameras that are out, but the western facing ones are working. So I just wanted to update that, since people were saying it and asking about it. I did quickly do a look and can see in some instances where that is true, the eastern facing is out, but then some of them have come back online. So I don't know if it's how big of an issue it is. Some were suggesting that they were blinding our view looking east, but these are webcams that look into the dark, and there's nothing to see anyway at night, on one hand. And again, this is not like our national defense system. This is just a webcam that is operated by the FAA as part of their system of a lot of different things that they operate on their network.
So the concern is that these cameras momentarily or at a point were down, and people are concerned that maybe they were being altered or being hacked or being shut off or being blinded. So they're worried essentially of something coming from the east, and that this would be the time or something, right?
Yeah, I think that's what people are saying, and I've confirmed at the beginning of the show I did see some of those cameras down, and some of those cameras are back up, not all of them, but it's also hard to tell too because now they're looking east and it's dark, so it's a black screen anyway. But you could easily tell when it said the image, there was an error. That's how you knew that nothing was working. But yes, that there was that happening. I know a lot of people were commenting about it in chat, and I got a handful of emails on it as well. So I didn't want you to think that we were ignoring you, but we did look, we do see it, and it's, take it for what it's worth. I'm not trying to overemphasize it or de-emphasize it either.
Well, we'll follow it. I did not know of it, so I'm glad that people mentioned it, and I'm glad that's why we watch the chat, and that's why we ask you to bring us breaking news as well. Your emails, they do get read, it's sometimes late, and then sometimes if they pop up and I see them right away, that's great. It's just kind of a chance thing because so many come in. But I do encourage people to send us news stories and anything that's breaking. We would love to be the first. This is why we would need more people to be here. If we had more people, checking and getting these stories and getting these photos and getting everything else, that's why I want to expand. That's my overall goal, is to make this and grow this and bring more Foogle fam, especially Foogle fam that may not have. Yeah, I thought about a lot of the stories I've heard about different Foogle fam. They might be in a wheelchair, or they might be stuck somewhere, but they can be on the computer all day, and they could do any job like that. And that's why I've thought about that a lot over the last few months especially. So I appreciate your guys' support. I appreciate Marianne Spinelli. Thank you for supporting our channel. Johnny D, I've heard of the Iron Beam before. Johnny D, the Iron Beam, well, there's the Iron Dome. The fact that they're calling it the Iron Beam, that's kind of, I wonder if there's going to be a bigger version that's going to replace the Iron Dome. Iron Dome is essentially a defense system against missiles. So I just wonder if they're going to start doing it with lasers. All right. And then just as a reminder, there is, again, a $50 off discount over on EMP shields. If you do go over, make sure to understand that this is a device that will really protect you against all three phases of an EMP. It will protect you against a CME, at least protect your cars, your generators, your houses, your RVs, your boats. Essentially, this company makes a device for pretty much anything that you want to protect and keep running throughout an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, or a CME, a coronal mass ejection. They most likely have it. The most popular version is obviously the car version. Anybody can put it in about 10 minutes. It basically grounds the signal from an EMP or a CME in less than 500 trillionths of a second. And that means that it will ground it before it fries your device. So make sure to go check it out. This is a device that it's one of those things that you won't need it until you do. And once you do, you'll be very, very happy that you did this, because you'll still be driving and no one else will. Or your devices will work and no one else's won't. There are some things that are too big to put in a Faraday cage, and for those things, they have an EMP shield. All right, and then Dex, let's go over to the web only and the crazy stuff going on over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So lots happening. Head over to marfooglenews.com and click on the thumbnail for the show and scroll down past everything we just covered. We covered all this news, and then we have the overflow section. So that's everything else. That's the rest of the story. You can get updates, a lot of updates going on around inflation. What happened there? Of course, there's a ton of political things happening because the closer we move into fall, you're going to see more of that. So we've got some updates that are happening there. And some pretty big statements coming out from some of the people around the event that's kind of wrapping up in DC that has had a lot of coverage for the last couple weeks now, pertaining to that January event. So all of that and so much more. And by the way, Mr. Gilly Bates is giving like $20 billion of his money to his foundation, and is calling out to others to keep doing the same thing and giving up their wealth to charitable causes. So that's there. Updates on the monkey business that's been going on and lots more. So make sure you go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for today's show, or if you're on YouTube, it's really easy. Open that description and click on show notes.
And down at the very bottom, the Secret Service responds to the reported hack of the Sun's iCloud account. Crazy stuff came out of that, all sorts of things, text messages and stuff from others. It's just everything is just exploding right now, and there are a lot of distractions out there. So keep in mind, as long as you are trying to prepare yourself even just a little bit a week, then you will be a whole lot better. Mentally, you will feel better about yourself. Again, if you have extra water, if you have extra food, these are things that people do not do or they procrastinate on. Don't be a procrastinator when it comes to prep. That is exactly the opposite of the point. You need to stock up, not dwindle down your supplies. All right, and then thank you again, Marion Spinelli. Thank you, Johnny D, Greg Davis, Vic. Thank you, Kimbria over on DLive. Thank you guys for supporting. I appreciate that. Vicky K, Kelly 2334. It's nice to see you again. Raheel Z, thank you so much. Pollyanna 3, 28 dead cattle in Canada. Supposed lightning. Yeah, that is weird. I will have to look into that. Thank you for putting that in there. And then everybody else that has supported this week, Irish Rebel, I appreciate you. For Love of Country 1, thank you, and thank you. And I apologize for the people that missed today's show because it is unusually early, or at least it's funny. I noticed that many people miss it when we change our kind of time slot. How do you like the time slot, though? Do you guys like this slot? Do we, we hope not to step on anybody's toes, but today was kind of a necessity, so we don't mean to, but, also we don't want to step on anybody else's toes as far as live streamers. So, again, thank you, everybody. Much love. Be safe, and, of course, be prepared. Dex, thank you so much.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And Marf out. It's time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro.
Let's try our last resort. Hey, before the answer comes, let's make some dinosaurs. Fighting news, an asteroid's gonna destroy everything that once brought you joy. In on the news, an asteroid's gonna destroy everything that once brought you joy. Hey, before the answer comes, let's try our last resort. Hey, before the answer comes, let's make some dinosaurs.
Thank you, everybody that made it today. I appreciate each and every one of you. Much love. Say much love.
And even though Richards and the CJ Blaze, Lisa or Holland, such nice rain. It's got two ends, a Red Scout, a James Pando, Michael Jordan, and Arthur Lowe. I said Charlie Abercrombie, except humanity. Storm Rider and Deep State Mind and Cookie. Licious, JM and Jenny. I said Letitia stolen, everyone knows. Hey, before the answer comes, let's make some dinosaurs. Hey, before the answer comes, let's try our last resort. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey, before the answer comes, let's try our last resort. Hey, before the answer comes, let's make some dinosaurs.
Remember, you can join us over on Marfoogle Jams for the rest of the music. Stiletto, thank you. Jane Below, I think that's how you say that, Below. Denise Gonzalez, hey. Survival Game is in the house. Justin Sawyer 1, yes it is, unfortunately, but you can watch the replay in just a few minutes. Why, oh why, I Sky Spy, or maybe it's I Spy Sky. Then when AZ, save yourself, sheeple, and that sexy thing. Ha, it was Destiny, Smith, it's coming, and, oh, shh, whoop, Rufio Reed, Red Burning Fires, and Mr. Steve, Oliver Seaman, and Paul. What a horrible last name, y'all. Hey, 111107, one on B. Everybody heaven is a state of mind until you get there just in time.
Everything that once brought you joy. In on the news, an asteroid's gonna destroy everything that once brought you joy. In on the news, an asteroid's gonna destroy everything. Let's make some dinosaurs. Hey, before the answer comes, let's try our last resort. Hey, before the answer comes, let's make some dinosaurs. Hey, before the answer comes, let's try our last resort. Hey, before the answer comes, let's make some dinosaurs. Hey, before the answer comes, let's try our last resort. Come clean and cooking, yes, it's now. I know it felt big warrior. Big bag, I say America, Israel Garcia. Got the James Pando and Alicia Hall, Texas DW, and I Spy, y'all. I said Nathan Lucas and Charlie, G71 and Mr. Harley, Nathan Lucas and the Major, right? Michaela P, Sailor Spirit and Mine, River Micah, Celtic Warrior, and T-Pack. T-Pack to 5,000, everybody meet at Scarlet Begonias, Scarlet Begonias, Scarlet Begonias, Scarlet Begonias, Scarlet Begonias, Scarlet Begonias, Scarlet Begonias. Hey, Scarlet Begonias, let's make some dinosaurs. Penny Salmons and Chilliwack, let's make some dinosaurs. Hey, Zen with AZ, Mike Dinosaurs. Hey, got the bobblehead and some dinosaurs. Hey, on the back now with the W8 dinosaurs. Hey, with the Watchman Man, let's make some dinosaurs. Hey, with the one on B, let's make some dinosaurs. Hey, Holly the Kisser, you guessed it. Let's make some dinosaurs. Let's try our last resort. Hey, before the answer comes, let's make some dinosaurs. Hey, before the answer comes, let's dinosaurs. Hey, before the answer comes, let's try our last resort. Hey, before the answer comes, let's make some dinosaurs. Hey, before the answer comes, let's try our last resort. Hey, before the answer comes, let's make some dinosaurs. Hey,